Hello there. Welcome to the Political Checkmate. And tomorrow, I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy 33-year anniversary of the fall of the Soviet Union. Today, I am going through my checkmate list and checking it twice. And a person I am giving my checkmates to is Kyle Kulinski's video, Trump Wants to Privatize U.S. Postal Service. But before I begin, I want to thank a great friend to the channel, Theron Threeson, for making this video cover on short notice. He is a very great YouTuber to watch. I highly recommend checking out his channel. Now that I got that out of the way, here we go.
All right, guys. So another thing to fear moving forward, this is in the Washington Post. Trump eyes privatizing the U.S. Postal Service, citing financial losses. Trump feuded with the mail agency in his first term. Privatizing it could shake up consumer shipping and business supply chains. So understand something. It doesn't matter that the post office had quote unquote financial losses. It's not built to make a profit. That is not the point of the U.S. Postal Service. The point is to provide a service. Yes, it's funded by the government. That's okay. That's okay. That's fine. That's a good thing. There's some things that are worth not having capitalism built into it and worrying about a profit. So here, let's get into some of the specifics. This will be a disaster if he goes through with this.
Okay, just because the post office does a service does not really justify an artificial government monopoly through law. After all, a lot of things in life are services like car repairs or haircuts or window installers, but that does not mean that the government should have an artificial monopoly over it. Also, a government and private sector are both run by people, so I don't see why the idea of it being run by either group is an issue. But for me, I would always prefer the private sector because it allows the ability to have competition and free choice when giving payment instead of through force with taxation, as long as there is a free markets involved instead of government favors. While on possible outcomes, if we privatize the post office, I would say under a free market, it would generally have a positive outcome for consumers. After all, many countries have privatized and liberalized their mailing system and has caused good results, such as Germany and the Netherlands and Australia, where they have over a 10% decline in stamp price and increases in productivity, according to the economists Vincent Galasso and Yurichi Chazin.
President-elect Trump has expressed a keen interest in privatizing the U.S. Postal Service in recent weeks. 3 people with knowledge of the matter said, a move that could shake up consumer shipping and business supply chains and push hundreds of thousands of federal workers out of the government. That alone would be a colossal catastrophe. Colossal catastrophe. Trump has discussed his desire to overhaul the Postal Service at his Mar-a-Lago estate with Howard Lutnick, his pick for Commerce Secretary and the co-chair of his presidential transition, the people said. Earlier this month, Trump also convened a group of transition officials to ask for their views on privatizing the agency, one of the people said. Told of the mail agency's annual financial losses, Trump said the government should not subsidize the organization. The people spoke on the condition of anonymity to reflect private conversations. Trump's specific plans for overhauling the Postal Service were not immediately clear, but he feuded with the nation's mail carrier as president in 2019, trying to force it to hand over key functions, including rate setting, personnel decisions, labor relations, and managing relationships with its largest clients, the Treasury Department. The government is slow, decades slow on adopting new ways of doing things, and there's a lot of other carrier services that became legal in the 70s that are doing things so much better with increased volumes and reduced costs, said Casey Mulligan, who served as a top economist in the first Trump administration. We didn't finish the job in the first term, but we should finish it now. The postal system is older than the nation itself. Founded in 1775 with Benjamin Franklin as its chief, revitalized with free rural delivery at the start of the 20th century, then transformed into a financially self-sustaining agency in 1970 designed to bind the nation together through the mail. Even through financial challenges wrought by the rise of the internet, the Postal Service has remained one of Americans' most beloved federal agencies, second only to the National Park Service in a 2024 Pew Research survey. But as congressional Republicans and others in Trump's orbit have clamored in recent weeks for federal cost cutting, the Postal Service has emerged as a prominent target. People who work with the Department of Government Efficiency, a non-governmental panel, blah, 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 have also held preliminary conversations about major changes to the Postal Service, said 2 other people familiar with the matter who also spoke on the condition of anonymity. The Postal Service lost $9.5 billion in the fiscal year ending September 3rd. I love this. It only costs $9.5 billion to send any piece of mail anywhere in the frickin' country. Anybody could do it at any time. You pay the tiniest amount when you actually go to ship it, right? Took 9.5 billion and they're like, we got to stop that. We got to get rid of it. 9.5 billion is like what? 1 week's worth of the weapons we give Israel when we're over a year and balls deep into their genocide? Are you kidding me? This is the greatest deal of all time. It's only taken 9.5 million tax dollars to make this thing function. This thing is a modern marvel. Stung by continued declines in mail volume and slower than anticipated parcel shipping business, even as it made major new investments in modernized facilities and equipment, the agency faces nearly $80 billion in liabilities, according to its annual financial report. Well, we're now having the conversation about the military budget being $1 trillion. $1 trillion. By the way, the Pentagon's failed 7 audits in a row. They can't account for 61% of their money, but they're going to send another $900 billion, trillion dollars to them. And we're supposed to worry about the $80 billion in liabilities of the Postal Service? I'm supposed to dislike that? I'm supposed to say that it's unacceptable. Now we need to privatize it? By the way, what would privatizing it do? It would turn it over to robber barons and make it so they can loot it and make a profit. That's
Okay, you can be against both waste. Like you can be against the waste of the post office and the waste of the military. It's not like you can only be against one thing. Also, on government firing workers, that's not completely a bad thing. This reminds me of Henry Hazlitt's broken window fallacy, where you are only seeing what you can see and not the unseen. Where in this situation, the private sector would hire what is needed for the job, and that would get rid of overstaffing, and the rest of the people can find jobs that are actually needed filling, and the new money that is freed up from that waste can be going to better investments or different things that are needed in the economy. Now I want to get into the counter-argument of the cause of the deficit of the post office, which is a 2006 law about the unfunded liabilities for retiree healthcare, which is about $5.5 billion a year, which the post office has failed to pay. Of course, many private companies don't provide retiree health coverage, and this also ignores the fact that the post office has been given a lot of advantages than other private businesses, such as tax breaks and cheap money when borrowing from the Treasury, which gives an estimated of $18 billion of benefits.
what would happen. Cuts to the Postal Service could upend the trillion-dollar e-commerce industry, hitting small businesses and rural consumers whose businesses and budgets make the agency the shipper of choice. Amazon, the Postal Service's largest customer, uses the agency for last-mile delivery between its hulking product fulfillment centers and consumers' homes and businesses. And the agency's universal service obligation, which requires it to deliver mail or parcels regardless of distance or profitability concerns, means it is often the only carrier that will deliver to far-flung reaches of the country. That's the most important point, guys. It's not profitable for privatized services to go to a lot of places in this country, rural places in this country. It's not profitable. They lose money doing it. So it's the Postal Service that goes to places that nobody else wants to go to. So in other words, profit is not the concern, nor should it be.
Now we have an actual issue to be concerned about, rather than people I don't like running things. So with the rural area, Cornell economist writing in the Journal of Economic Perspectives talks about a private post office delivering to rural areas and gives many possible solutions, such as if rural areas were really unprofitable in a 6-day per week delivery, they could just simply cut down to 5 to 4 or 3 days to make it profitable, and mail is generally a bunch of advertisements, and in the early 1950s, many rural routes received delivery 3 days per week into the 1950s. They can also charge reflective rates for bulk mail depending on the routes. There is even some statistical evidence showing that there isn't a urban-rural cross-subsidy, since rural letter carriers use roadside delivery, which is often more efficient than park and loop, which would mitigate delivery cost impacts. Of course, this is just fear-mongering because many countries with private post offices still deliver to rural areas, and people said something similar about airline deregulation with rural areas, but services for those areas improved and fares declined. Okay, I am now skipping a few minutes because he talks about the political process and said things I already responded to.
I'm sorry, this is capitalist brainworms, man. This is capitalist brainworms. Not everything has to be for profit. We shouldn't even have health insurance companies Single payer Medicare for all we need for our health care, right? I would nationalize big pharma. You don't have to worry about profits for that. Virtually all the drugs that are created nowadays anyway are created with government funding at universities. Why do you need an independent third party to swoop in there and price gouge people, right? Some things you don't need a profit. You shouldn't have a profit. Some things should be part of basic governance in a civilized society. Jesus Christ. So anyway, I believe they go on here to describe ways in which they may go about privatizing it, right? But this is bad, bro. It dates back to the 1700s, bro. It dates back to the 1700s, and he wants to privatize it. I want to show you guys. Let me pull this up here. I have a tweet to show you. Here we go. This says everything right here. Ready? Shout out to Sean Morrow, who made this point. We need to call privatization what it is, adding a profit tax to a public good. A public post office puts all its resources towards delivering mail. A privatized post office will deliver a large chunk of its income to shareholders. In what universe is that better?
Okay, so on healthcare, it is a discussion for another day, but the majority of medical research is done by the private sector, with 90% of new pharmaceutical products and 75% of research and development efforts. And on the profit argument, I honestly don't care, since almost anybody is doing something in the name of profit. The CEO is definitely doing things for profit, but so are the government postal workers. They are doing their jobs just to get paid. Almost all of them will not work if they don't get paid at all. On the public goods argument, this Mises article tackles this claim pretty well, and it does not justify government intervention. Also, taxes are non-voluntary. They are enforced. So if the post office was privatized, I can just simply decline to use their services, kind of like Kramer from Seinfeld. This is the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and please donate to my Patreon so I can make more videos and have your video requests checkmated. And thanks for watching, and have a nice day.